Okay, guys, it's time for our Breaking into Business keynote. So if you be sure to stay mute during the conversation, and if you have a question, leave it in the chat so our speaker can answer. And yeah, we're so excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shivali and Farah. How's everyone doing today? Seems like we're signed in from all over the world. It's really awesome. So welcome. My name is Amara Obiago. I am currently the Revenue and Strategy Operations Manager at Flow to Action. I'm amazingly happy to be here today. This conference is unbelievable. Just a great shout out to the founders. I mean, I can't imagine if there was a conference like this when I was your age, just a couple years ago. So that's just really wonderful. Applauding all of you for starting this, but also all of you guys that are here. This is wonderful. So let's get started. So this is the Breaking into Business talk. We are going to focus on how you can create space and add value to any company. So in order to, what are we going to cover today? I'm going to give you a little bit of information on my background and how I was able to take my dreams and narrow them down into achievable goals, and then focus a little bit on how do you find the right company to work for, and then creating space within that company, and ultimately the goal of that, what happens at the end, creating space for yourself, and that how that leads into creating space for other people. All right. Also, I want this to be as interactive as possible. So if anyone has a question, put it in the Slack. Put it in the chat. And if there's a pause at the end of every slide, feel free to just, ask a question. That's totally fine. Awesome. All right. So I'll give you a little bit of information on me. My name is Amara, like I've said. I'm a vegetarian, so that's just very important to me because I put it above my nationality. I'm Nigerian and Swiss. I don't know if there are any people signed in from Nigeria or Switzerland today, but welcome and nice to meet you virtually in some capacity. I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. You might have heard of it. It's this really, really big city. I call it the New York of Nigeria, or it can be the Mexico City of Africa, whatever works more for you. So while I was growing up, I was naturally, like a lot of us, inspired by my environment. I was in an environment where most of my parents and most of my relatives, so a lot of the adults around me, were entrepreneurs. They were all in different sectors and industries in the economy. However, they were all entrepreneurs working and running their own businesses and giving back to their communities. So I was very inspired by this. And since I was a child, I just knew that I wanted to start a business one day and I wanted to be a business person. Obviously, now we know that's more of an entrepreneur, but it's just what I focused on and what I was inspired to do my entire life. As a child, I, sold cookies and gave the money to my church in order for them to build a better church, a bigger church. I also made bracelets with my brother and my cousins and sold those at school. But despite having all of this passion, I did the IB and went to university, but I didn't really focus on anything business related, like finance or accounting or marketing. My passions were more in line with politics and economics, history, current affairs. So naturally, I followed my passions and I majored in international affairs as well as international economics. So I'm just going to stop for a second and see. There's some people raising hands. Any questions so far? Yes, IB is kind of like the AP program, just a little bit different. I see a couple people signing in from Nigeria and a lot of vegetarians. So awesome. I guess we're all on the same page with that. All right. So while I was in university, studied international affairs, like I said, and I had lots of internship experiences. I'm sure a lot of you are at the point in your life where you're trying to find internships or you already have done internships in the past. And what I was able to do is I aligned my internships with my desire to be in the business world. And my passions were my studies in international affairs and history and economics. So during my internship experience, I mainly worked for small to medium sized businesses, and I figured out how much I love those. I also had an internship at a law office and decided I should probably not be a lawyer because I didn't enjoy it. So just one of the best tips that I can give you guys as you're going out to find internships, definitely grab any opportunities that you can. But it's actually okay if you don't enjoy an internship, because it's so valuable to know what you like as opposed to what you also don't like. So if you are able to identify early on what you don't like, it also has the same effect as shaping your path towards what you will find most interesting in life a little bit. Anyways, so by the time I started getting towards the end of my college experience, like most people, I now had to go out and find a job, but I wasn't really too sure how to narrow down my dreams to actually help me get a job. And this is where I went and did a really important exercise, which is narrowing down my dreams into goals. So now I just have a general question. Anyone can answer this and just unmute yourself. What do you think is the difference between a dream and a goal? I'm going to check in the chat here for a second. Does anyone have an idea?
Well, a goal is more
I think.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. You can go first.
Okay, well, I feel like the goal is something that you strive for and you actually take like physical and like even mental steps to reach that area. But a dream is more something you imagine and something like it's more of a desire than it is something realistic.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that answer. That makes a lot of sense. And that is essentially what it is, right? So the difference between a dream and a goal is that goals are dreams with deadlines, and exactly what you've said, taking actionable steps towards achieving them, as opposed to just having a dream and hoping that it kind of just comes together. So I have three main dreams. The first dream, like I said a little bit before, is to start and run a successful business. The second dream, is to get an MBA. And then the third dream is to make the Forbes 30 under 30 list. Now, as you can tell, these are all really big, lofty dreams. So it really helps to synthesize them down into a professional goal before you start your job search. So in order to run a successful business, it's good to have some business experience. If you want to get an MBA, you also need, I'm sure you guys can fill in the blanks by now, business experience. There are lots of different ways to make Forbes 30 under 30. A lot of them are entrepreneurs that have started their own businesses. So everything kind of directed me towards, I needed to learn how to run a successful business. It seems easy enough, right? So makes sense. So this is now my professional goal. So I was just finishing university, deciding, all right, I need to learn how to run a successful business. And that is what I embarked to do. And this helped me frame a more strategic job search. Are there any questions? Does someone want to shout out one question before
I do have one question. You said that you didn't take like finances and accounting when you were in college. Did you ever regret that later in life when you were trying to like learn how to run a successful business?
That's a really good question. So it's very interesting. I don't regret it, to be entirely honest. And I think my journey will show that to you a little bit more. But I don't regret it because you can actually learn so much. Everything I learned in school, I don't know if I would have been able to learn that on my own. The things that I didn't learn, like using Microsoft Excel properly and, learning some advanced formulas that you would use in finance, all of those I've been able to learn outside of a classroom. But some of the deep philosophies that have shaped my political beliefs and some of the amazing professors I had, I would have never met them if I didn't study international affairs. So I don't regret it at all. All right, that's a really good question. Thank you. I did actually want to study business, and my father was the one that told me, study what you're most passionate about, and you can always get into business. So I will stand by that for this one. All right. Thank you so much for that question, Trinity. That was really important. So finding the right business fit. Now, I knew that I wanted to learn how to run a successful business. So what I did was I took a Venn diagram of my passions, the environment I knew I wanted based on my previous internship experience, and then my skills, and did a little Venn diagram of what was most important to me. And that's what led me towards Phone to Action. Now, I have a passion for politics, international affairs, women-owned businesses, and entrepreneurship. Phone to Action was co-founded by a woman that was very important to me, also a woman of color, Jimena Hartsock. Phone to Action is in the advocacy space. We'll talk about it a little bit in a second. So it really focused on my passions. In terms of environment, it was and still is a small company, very vibrant, has a very young culture, but also a pioneer within its own space. Now, Phone to Action is a software company that creates tools that enables people to contact their lawmakers and advocate for change through grassroots campaigns. So if you've ever heard the phrases like text your lawmaker, call your lawmaker, Facebook your lawmaker, that has been made possible through the technology developed by Phone to Action that we have developed, and it's also been made popular. About 1 out of 5 messages sent to lawmakers and the federal level in the United States, so our Congress, so the House of Representatives and the Senate, 1/5 of those emails actually pass through the Phone to Action platform. So we've become very successful. And I was just so fascinated by the work that Phone to Action was doing and is doing that I just decided this is where I have to work. It has everything that I need. It's in my city. And, I was so passionate and so happy to find the right fit. And at the time, the job that they have was a job for a lead research associate that I did qualify for. So I applied and started working at Phone to Action. So not only was I super happy to have a job after graduation, but also finding the right fit. I didn't really focus so much on how much the lead research associate job wasn't exactly the job I wanted. Now, at the time, when I had just come out of college, like I said, my goal was, who wants to just repeat my goal to me one more time, just so I know you're all engaged?
Learn how to start a successful business.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So start a successful business. So another important thing to remember in business is always reading in between the lines. So being able to run a successful business means that I wanted to get as much experience as I could, touching all the different departments and teams within a business. So I thought operations would be the best role for me. Operations kind of helps everyone and bridges the gaps and makes the company cohesive. However, at the time, there were no operations jobs at Phone to Action. They did have a job for lead research associates. Now, lead research associates at the time were responsible for finding emails and phone numbers, finding contact information, giving that to the sales team, and then the sales team would reach out and try and sell the product. So what I thought, it would be best to get my foot in the door and then maybe find my way to the operations team. I will let you know now, this is a big spoiler, I never made it to the operations team. However, I am very happy at Phone to Action till this day. I am very happy in my role that I was actually able to create for myself. So this is what my trajectory up till today looks like at Phone to Action. Now, on the surface, this is kind of what every single LinkedIn profile looks like. But what you don't know is that apart from this first lead research associate job, every single job that I've had after that, I had to go and create the space and advocate for and align it towards my goal and my dream. And I'm going to explain a little bit how I did that with going from a lead research associate to then a sales operations lead, and then how you can do that in turn in your careers and in your different internships. Are there any questions before we move on to the next slide?
This
Hello?
is a bit of a general question, but do you have any tips or like other tips for finding your passion?
For finding your passion?
Right.
Well, I think finding your passion is something that happens over a good amount of time. one thing that I would say is look back to all the different things you've enjoyed in your life and try and find a commonality. Another thing about finding a passion, and this is one that I learned more recently, is if something has been irritating you for a long time and something, you just have to advocate for something all the time, that might be your passion, right? So if you have a big passion for, an example, gender equity and gender equality, but you also have a passion for technology, working for or being in an environment like Girl Genius is perfect for that because you're striving towards those two things. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. All right. So what is space? What is the space I'm talking about? How do we create it? All right, guys, I'm going to finally demystify it for you. So just bear with me. So first of all, space is essentially anywhere, somewhere I can add value. Where can you add value to your school, your organization, or your company? That is essentially what the first tenet of space is. Now, while I was a lead research associate, the first thing I did was, how can I be the best lead research associate? And I started, finding the best strategies and the best research methods to find people's phone numbers and contact information and give those to the sales team. And once I was there, I now had to find out, all right, where can I create value? Where can I expand my career? And at the time, while I was working at Phone to Action, I was introduced to Salesforce. Now, Salesforce is a customer relationship management tool. It helps companies interact with their customers and helps companies automate how they interact with their customers. At the time, in 2017 at Phone to Action, there was only one person working in the back end and working in the setup of Salesforce, while everyone else was just a Salesforce user. And this is the type of greenfield opportunity that you want to identify. So as I started looking more into Salesforce, I started realizing that at Phone to Action, we had a few challenges that we have since overcome, but a few significant challenges that made the sales reps continue working in Google Docs as opposed to working in Salesforce, which is really ridiculous because you always want your sales reps to work in Salesforce. So that helped me, create a project that was going into Salesforce and reorganizing all of the accounts, naming conventions, and adding websites to all the accounts. So it would be way easier for the sales reps to find the accounts, and then they wouldn't have to work in the Google Docs. So I was able to apply this by using my research skills, but then also I had to acquire new skills because I had never used Salesforce before. I had to go and sign up to Trailheads, the Salesforce University, and learn how to use Salesforce as a tool before I could even, complete the project. And while I was doing this project, I was able to go out and find a mentor in our Salesforce admin at the time, Will Stallworth, who is still a friend of mine today, and had a champion in our director of operations who had actually hired me at Phone to Action. So a combination of finding a space and finding somewhere I could add value, taking on a project, applying my skills, making sure I acquired new skills, and having a mentor and a champion eventually helped me become a sales operations lead within 10 months. Now, what was the difference between being a sales operations lead and a lead research associate? As a sales operations lead, I was directly in charge of assisting all the Salesforce initiatives, which essentially meant that I had to, when I say rinse and repeat in the previous slide, I'm talking about going back to the top. So I was able to add value in Salesforce with the accounts, but I had to go in and add more value as part of my new job. And then the second thing that I was able to do as a sales operations lead was I was able to hire some more lead research associates. I had done such a good job and had added so much value to the company and to the sales team that they were able to give me some budget to hire more lead research associates. And this is essentially how I was able to create space for myself within a team and a company where that space didn't exist previously. And ultimately, what gave me the most satisfaction and happiness once I was able to do this was not getting promoted. Getting promoted is nice, but what was better was being able to hire more people and give other people the opportunities to join into my space and add value to our company. And being able to be in a more management position also helped me learn how to run a successful business, ultimately tying everything back to my first goal. Any questions before we wrap up here? Because I think you all know where this is going to a little bit.
I had a question.
Yeah.
So when you were in that last role you mentioned, did you use a specific like certification that guided you, like Six Sigma or so, for project management, like that helped you make the process a lot better for everyone?
So that's really important, right? So that's a very good question. In terms of project management, that's actually what I'm working on right now. So project management and a full Salesforce certification are two skills that I'm acquiring right now. So right now I'm at the A in space. So I found another opportunity. I've done some projects, but now I have to focus on acquiring new skills and applying those skills. So I am focused on more of a PMP, project management certification, and then down the line becoming a full Salesforce admin. So just continuing this process on and on all the way until my current job and future jobs. So thank you. That's a really important question. Any other questions?
How do you recommend going about and finding a mentor?
So this is a really, really important question and something I would love if every single one of you could write this down. Informational interviews. So here's the thing about mentorship. People actually enjoy sharing and enjoy learning. And that's what this whole thing is about. Once you create space for people, once you create space for yourself, you then create space for people and can bring people in and have such a dynamic space, a rising tide lifts all boats. So what you want to do is if you identify someone you want to be, someone that you want to be your mentor, just go and ask them. Start off by saying, hey, I find your job really interesting. I would love to learn more about you. Could I do an informational interview? And that is how you start the process. Some people naturally will be more responsive than others, but that is essentially how you would start the mentorship process, simply asking and starting with an informational interview to learn more about them. I hope that was a good question.
Hi, everyone. So
Thank you.
A little bit over, so we're going to have to wrap this up. But thank you so much for coming. We have our recruiter panel right now. So if you're interested in that, be sure to stay in the Zoom. But otherwise, you can leave the Zoom and then come back to the event that you want to come back to. Thank you so much for coming. And thank you so much for Amara for this really insightful keynote.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful time. I stopped sharing my slide because I know you all have to go, but I'm just going to put this up here for 2 seconds for anyone that wants to email me or reach out to me on LinkedIn with more questions. You can just take a screenshot of that and, reach out to me with any other questions. This has been a pleasure. Thank you all so much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. I'm really looking forward to it.